welcome John Heck from Boldt and Will Lichtig from Boldt. So I'm going to do a brief introduction as we get ready for your presentation. So I think, Will, you have been already introduced earlier today, but let me, I need glasses now. A year ago I didn't. That means something, I think. So let me introduce John. And John is Senior Vice President and General Manager at the Boldt Company, where he leads Boldt's National Power and Industrial Division, overseeing operations for some of their most technical and specialized projects nationwide. With more than 35 years of experience with Boldt, John brings a depth and diversity of experience in construction and a strong reputation for promoting internal continuous improvement and achieving consistent client satisfaction. I need to say one thing before you guys start. I met John more than 20 years ago when it was freezing cold in close to in Wisconsin, and we had the opportunity to work. It's amazing, 20 or so years ago, on paper turnarounds. Okay. Pulp and paper turnarounds, and where the industrial division that he now is leading across the nation for Boldt had a significant impact, and I'm sure you guys are going to probably expand on that, but they broke the world record on shutting down these paper machines. Okay, it's hard to explain, but paper machines, they actually reduce from 25 days to 23 days using a systematic approach, production-based approach, and that was actually recognized by the global pulp and paper industry. And that was a huge achievement by Boldt and the team in Wisconsin. So I always have those memories of working with you guys, okay?
Thank you.
So I'll leave you, and thank you for being with us.
No problem. So I've got two people, Brian and Joe, are with me. We sat outside there and had lunch today. And
Welcome to winter.
I know. I realized why these guys don't go to the University of Wisconsin-Madison is because it's pretty doggone nice out there right now. So that's kind of cool. So a little bit about, I'll flip to a slide here. Oh, that's us. One more. Just a little bit about who I am and a little bit on my journey, because some of you, this is your first time here. And like Roberto said, I met him 20 years ago when we did a paper machine rebuild for Consolidated Paper in Wisconsin Rapids. And again, it was successful. But again, we did not necessarily grasp exactly what Roberto was telling us at that time. And it's taken us a few years to get there. So we're, 137 years of been in business. We're headquartered in Appleton, Wisconsin. My wife said it snowed and she had to shovel the driveway and she's all upset about that. But too bad, that's your job, when you're part of the team. I've been there 39 years. So I've been on this journey. And like Will said, since 99, we've been really thinking and working really hard with this idea of lean and what it meant to us. We're active in the Lean Construction Institute, all these different things that we were doing along on our journey. But I watched it grow in our healthcare business. So we do a lot of work in the healthcare business. About 50% of our work is in healthcare, and about 50% is in the work that I do, that my team does more in the industrial world. We do about $1.6 billion a year. My operating group is in a range of about $500 million a year of revenue. And I'll show a little bit of some of our goals as we continue to move forward. So I watched the healthcare teams do some really neat things. And they really got some great results. So I would take some of that and try to apply it to what we were doing in the industrial world, and there was a lot of resistance, okay? If you read the Built to Fail book that Todd wrote, chapter 11 is probably the best chapter in the book, if you ask me, okay? all the technical stuff is great and all that stuff, but when he talks about what it takes, that change is scary, what it really takes to do it, that's what, you've got to really grab onto and have a lot of courage and really drive. So that's a little bit of what I've been trying to do on my journey through this. So the healthcare group are having some really great things. We would take some of the lean tools and apply them, but we would get little results here and little things there, and they were kind of the flavor of the month, and it really wasn't taking off and going the way we wanted it to go. And then, what'd you say, 15 years ago you joined us? So 15 years ago, Will joined us, and I got to spend some time with him, and I said, there's something different here, okay? There's something unique about what he's doing. He shared with us all the cool stuff he did with Sutter Health and all those different things, and I said, I wanted to learn more. So we became good friends. I refer to him as my doctor, because a lot of times I have challenges with people, and I can go to him, and he'll give me some really good advice, because by trade, he's an attorney, so he always knows the right words to use, okay? And he always got really cool things to tell you as you're going along, but he's been a real big help to me as I've been journeying that. And then as the Sutter work and all that started to wind down, and we went through some organizational changes, Will got to even spend more time in Appleton and with me and hold my hand and help me on this journey to have the courage to continue to move things forward. 3 years ago, we, or I should just step back a little bit. One other thing, we've, at the last LCI conference, there was a presentation that part of my team did on a project we did with Georgia Pacific. Okay, they're a paper producing company. And we had a really successful project. 2 years ago, we started that project. We decided at that point to do something different, okay? And again, that's a great word, do something different, think differently. What does that really mean, okay? So we embarked on, we wanted a job, and we said we were gonna do it IPD, we're gonna do it target cost, GP decided they didn't wanna do that, which all kinds of crazy things. But anyway, we set out to improve our performance on that job by 15%. I had a trade partner who get in my face and he said, look, John, you're absolutely crazy. He said, I cut my number 10% to get the job with you. Now you want me to take it down 15% more. I said, yes. And I said, step up and be part of the team and let's do this. We got together, we built a really cool culture, spent a lot of time. I think the Tony from Hess was talking a little bit about the culture and what they do and how we built this culture. We created a vision. We created I wills and we wills, and we behaved every single day on how we wanted to, and we achieved that accomplishment. We ended up, I don't know, we were probably 20% under where our numbers were when we got done. But again, we were not using SPS yet, okay? We're the system that they had. We finished that job, very successful. All kinds of people have talked about it. Roberto and James came and sat in a conference room at Georgia Pacific with me and shared what they're currently doing. And we said, oh my goodness, this is really cool. What they've got can help us put the controls in place that every time, every project, everything we do is predictable and we get the really cool results. Because I need to take what we did at Cinco to other jobs, other customers, other people. How can we do it? This is what they showed us. It looks really good. Then I said, I'm still not there yet. It's going to be an investment. I got to spend some money. I got to go to Dave Keevan and ask him for money, all this stuff. And I said to Roberto, I said, is there somebody I can talk to? And he says, yeah, there's a guy by the name of Gary Fisher. You need to talk to this guy. So I'm in a hotel room, and I'm on my computer, and we have a little Teams meeting, and he tells me about his story and how he got, we spent an hour and a half together, and he's telling me all about the stuff at Chevron, and man, this is really cool. He's all over the world doing these big projects. Told me about the LNG, the 3 different LNGs and stuff. And then I go, here's a guy who's got a fancy title, executive leader of PPI, okay? But he's been at Chevron, he's had all this trouble. He put all this stuff together. Man, that's pretty cool, this guy. Maybe there's something here that's gotta be part of it. I said, okay. So he and I have become friends. We've shared a lot back and forth. And currently, we are using the process, and we're using it on 2 projects. We're slowly integrating ourselves into it. We're using it on a large solar project in northwestern Wisconsin, and we're seeing some really good results. Chet's our coach, teaching us all about it, and it's really working out well. And then on a project called Project Genesis for Nestle in Fremont, Michigan, we're currently using it there. And that model is ready to be, I think, optimized as of yesterday. So we're close to getting ready to get that one all set and pump it out there. So a little bit more about, so that's kind of our journey on how we've got to where we're at, okay? And it's not been easy. It's been a challenge. There's always been a lot of different things along the way, but we really think that there's something different, and it's really cool in which we're going. So this is, my operating group is called the National Power and Industrial Group, okay? We typically in the 400 to 500 million, we've pushed as high as $600 million of revenue. Our goal is to get to $1 billion operating group or better, okay? Job profit at 10.5% and a DOI, which is just a simple calculation. You take our overhead off that, and we're targeting a 7% DOI. We do a little bit of research in the world out there. The public exchange contractors and stuff are in that 4 to 5%. So we think we can get to a much higher DOI with the plans and what we're currently going to try to accomplish. The industries that we currently play in, we do a lot of work in renewables, both wind and solar. We do quite a bit of work in the food and beverage, so Nestle's and Cargill's and all those kind of big organizations like that we work for them. We do work in the power. Currently, there's a gas SOAR right now. We got a lot of gas projects out there right now. Combined cycle and simple cycle, we'll do both of them. Do a lot of work in pulp and paper. That's very good. So if you go to the grocery store, you buy Brawny paper towel, okay, or Kirkland at Costco, okay? Those come off the machines that we build. And then we do a lot of work in just general industrial work and stuff like that. Just a couple of things about what we're trying to get to with the world that we're trying to create with the SPS process is to get about 50% of our projects, I'm talking about the heavy industrial work, to be negotiated projects, improve our hit rate to 75%. So currently we're at about a 30% hit rate right now. And then have a constant backlog of work, because that really helps our team. Complete our projects at about 25% improvement, okay, on what we set out to in the basis of our estimate. And then be in that range of, to be under budget as we continue to move in that direction. And then this is a little bit on the solar project. I don't know if everybody's aware of a solar. It's 150 megawatts of energy will be generated by this particular one. There's approximately 50,000 piles, so individual piles are driven that the racks set on. And then there's about 286,000 solar panels that'll be put in place. And there's about 677 acres of land that we will touch in some way, somehow, as we build that. And we currently have a model in the SPS system for that we're using to optimize our performance on it. And again, I'm not an expert. I'll say a few things. There is indications as we optimize it that we can cut as much as 3 months of time out of that. Be done 3 months earlier. We're currently evaluating the financial impact of that, and we have a meeting, I think, next week, right, to sit down with the team, and I'm going to challenge them to say, okay, if that's what our model saying we're going to take that money and put it in a separate account, take it out of ours and track to the new number as we continue our journey through that project. So currently, we're probably 25 to 30% of the pile are in a project. All the earthwork is done. So, and racking is just starting to show up, and panels will start showing up in March, I think, of next year. So here's a couple of the slides that you generate out of the system. And maybe you want to...
You go ahead.
To
Keep
say a few...
when you need help, you let me know.
Okay, so...
So far, so good, brother.
So a little bit on how we're currently implementing this, okay? So I picked these two projects to do. I have an individual that is a project controls type technical person. Trevor has one, and then Joe has one of the projects that we do. And they meet every week, every day, all the time with Chet, and he helps them through the whole process, okay? He's teaching us how to use it, okay? He's teaching those individuals how to use the system, okay? And then every other Friday, I have a meeting that Will and I have with Roberto and James, and they give me a summary, okay? And the goal of that is to talk about, are we accomplishing what we want? Because we set out with a calendar, this is what we want to do. And then they'll share with me where there's roadblocks, where my leadership and stuff have to step in to keep moving it forward. So if you decide that this is what it works out very well that way, okay? Let me step back from that too. We did a 1 day, it's a 1 or 2 day, 2 day training session with Roberto and James that got the team all acclimated to what we're gonna do, okay, on our journey there. Anything on that, okay? And then just a little bit more of the feedback again, but again, the thing that's very interesting to me is that we built a P6 schedule, and we had a plan, and then we took all the data and we put it into the SPS system, and we actually told ourselves that our original plan was okay. The model told us it was not okay. But the really cool thing about it is we hadn't spent any of that money yet. So, like I said, I've been doing this 39 years. A lot of times we would tell ourselves at the end of the job that we had all kinds of money left. Like, holy God, we blew it, you guys. We weren't even close. Here we're telling ourselves way ahead of time that there's something broken with our current model, our current plan. What can we do? So then we found the different areas of it and said, okay, if we optimize this, if we get more carpenters, if we do this, if we make, really watch our WIP, if we make shorter different plans and stuff along the way, we can optimize it to the point where we think we can be in that 3 to 4 months ahead of schedule, okay? But we're doing that now, not after we spent the money, okay? Which is just absolutely fascinating. So if I go back to my Cinco story and all that, if we would have had this and did some of that, maybe we could have got to a 50% improvement instead of a 20% improvement if we would have did some of this stuff a little bit better as we're going along. Anything else?
Keep going.
Okay. I don't know what other slides you guys put in.
Just a couple more about the optimization, the way that the system worked.
Go ahead if you want to share a little bit.
Let me see what's up here now. Yeah, so this is just, again, showing the different scenarios that were run and how we used the system to figure out what was optimal and how we ultimately could take about 85 days out from what the P6 schedule showed as compared to what an optimized production system would ultimately produce. And then if you click to the next one, I guess the only other thing I'll offer here is we didn't want to just fish, we wanted to learn how to fish. And so part of our express goals when we set out the work with SPS on this particular set of projects was to build organizational capability, not just with the software, but actually to understand the methods. The other thing I'll say is that for those of you, the certificate holders will know, this is just part of project production management. This is just the front end of map, model, analyze, and optimize. There's still more that is yet to be done in this, so this is an early portion of the story, but again, the idea was for, not just for Joe and Trevor as I'll call it the operators of the model, but for the rest of the project teams to come to become familiar with project production management thinking, so.
Cool. So just a couple other things that are really, I think, important that come on it. So if you go again, read that book. I would read that. Built to Fail. That book's awesome. It's got really cool stuff in there. And you heard it earlier this morning. They talked about predictability, price certainty, whatever you want to call it. Chet and those guys were up here, and they talked about all the financial stuff and everything. Everybody in the construction industry is looking for that. Okay, how you get there is going to be really important. So we had huge success with Georgia Pacific. I have a job now that we just won with Kimberly-Clark, okay? They hired us because of what they heard about Cinco. Not about anything else, but they heard out in the industry that there's something really cool going on. There's something different going on. So they hired us. Now, I had to give them a number for the early engagement amount, and I competed against 2 other contractors. My number was the highest number, and they selected me, okay? Because they think there's something different. Now I have to deliver on it, and if I do this, and if Roberto and James help me, we are going to be able to be predictable and give them what they want, okay? Along with that, at the LCI conference, the team talked about our journey with Georgia Pacific. We started off with them about 10 years ago as a design, bid, build type relationship. Earlier this year, right? We signed it this year. Earlier this year, we signed a IOFA agreement with them for a 10-year rebuild program. So to rebuild all of their paper machines, which is about a little over $1 billion program, we will do that all as an IOFA agreement. So that's the journey we've been on with them. And again, I believe that this process and what we're going to do is going to help us now to be more predictable, to be more reliable, to be able to give Georgia Pacific even more, that they can be the lower cost producer of Brawny paper towel and Angel soft tissue and all that as we continue our journey with them. So I got a few minutes left yet. Are there any questions? Yes, go ahead.
He's going to run the mic to you. Let me, while he's running the mic, just one other point that I just want to make sure we underscore here, because you heard me say earlier that in Boldt, at some points in our development, this was an add-on. This is actually core to John's strategy and the strategy that he developed with the team. So when we talked about this 2-day workshop, it was not just a workshop, it wasn't just training on project production management. We actually developed a transformation plan for the entire operating group that started with project acquisition and went all the way through project delivery, execution, maintenance, everything. And this was core to the development of that transformation strategy for John and his group. So again, it's not project production management, it's project production management is core to us becoming a $1 billion organization, to hitting the 70% hit rate, to hitting the DOI percentages. That is core to being able to achieve that. And I think that's the difference between what John is doing as a leader today and what some of our other leaders did in the 20 years before this. So again, it's making a very different bet based on project production management.
Go ahead.
So when we started this meeting, they asked us to raise our hand if we were the first. This was our first symposium, and I did, so forgive the elementary question. But are you man-loading your schedules before you're putting them into this so you can understand how you optimize it?
Yes. So we'll man-load our P6 schedule, and then also we've learned how to make sure that our estimates got the right data in it so we can feed it into the SPS system also. So yes, you got to get the right data. you know.
So let me just offer this, and I'll let anybody else clean it up. So you need rates, and you need to be able to analyze capacity. And so one of the things we learned in the solar farm was that we actually didn't have enough carpenter capacity to achieve the objectives that we were trying to achieve. So part of what we had to be able to do, if we were going to keep the same rates, we had to increase capacity in order to bring that schedule back. But it wasn't at an additive cost because the total labor hours were basically the same. It was just increasing loading at certain points along the production system.
One quick comment about that, if you enable the microphone, please. Can I tell the story quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
So he mentioned that James and I went, and they invited us to go and visit them in Green Bay.
Yep. And it was cold, wasn't it?
It was really, well, it started getting cold. This is earlier this year. And as we were introducing some ideas for them to think about, we get to one where we said, look, from a production system perspective, schedules set the demand that the production system must respond to. Schedules by themselves are not representations of production systems, right? It's the wish, is what we want to get to. But the actual production system is the one that is going to tell us if we can make it or not. When we said that, John was actually sitting in the conference room. He stood up, walked to the front, say that again. Literally, right? Say that again. And when he did that, I knew that he understood everything we were talking about, based on, obviously, his significant experience, right? So just a bit of a story on that one. The other thing, perhaps quickly before the next question, you guys went through something quickly here, but you see this sort of diagram from where you are, kind of small, but every single bubble, okay? Every single bubble there is a different design of the same production system. Make sense? What Boldt is doing is testing different designs. This is not doing a P50, P90 analysis of the schedule. That's not what that is, right? And they're moving different levers of what they can do, and obviously, without knowing the information, this one here is the one that can actually compress a schedule and reduce cost at the same time, right? Sometimes we hear, look, if you want to reduce cost, it's going to take you more time. If you want to compress a schedule, it's going to cost you more. It's one or the other one, right? But what if you want both? Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that on the strategies that you guys are putting in place. But we have a question here. John, I think?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, it's great to hear what you're doing that's new, and some of it's kind of familiar, but can you talk a little bit about what you no longer have to do? What have you been able to stop doing since you've been able to start doing this? That you're displacing something with your new process.
Any other question? Raise your hand. I will be approaching you.
No, that's a great question. So I guess I do a lot less worrying okay, about the performance of the Apple River project than anything. You know, I mean, like, I believe we can make it, and I believe we can get it better, and I believe I can even contribute more DOI to the company because of that project. So it's given me a chance to focus my attention somewhere else because I know that one's under control, and it works. I mean, I don't have to, it doesn't take any of my energy whatsoever. The project, yeah, you know, where I'd say the Nestle one, or the Genesis project, we're trying to get that, I get a call when our shop drawings aren't right. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. I'm the general manager. I gotta worry about shop drawings, you know? It's just, you know, it's a whole different culture there because it's under control, you know? I guess that would be the biggest thing, you know, that would be different for us, you know, at least for me. I don't know, Will, is there?
I think that's a good one.
And I would guess then you do a lot less work in rebaselining, damage control, endless meetings with your customer who's now really mad, all that kind of stuff.
You know, and I would say something to you guys from Chevron. You know, one of the things that Brian and I and Joe were talking about a little bit was, now that we've got this and we're starting to understand, can we take this back farther in the process to almost where Georgia Pacific has got some of their business operations in this process to say, maybe we should do this paper machine rebuild before this one and all that kind of stuff. Can we optimize that whole thing? Looking, you know, the whole thing stronger than what we currently do, you know?
That's terrific to hear.
I will take care of it, don't worry.
Okay.
Yep. Bruce?
Thanks. This is a really interesting presentation. Obviously, we all love the days and the dollars, right? Are you seeing what other benefits are you seeing? Are you seeing improved safety performance, employee retention, like anything else? Is there any other, those other metrics?
I think that's a great, but we're still fairly early, but I will say this. When I went to the Apple River job, the morale and the culture and everything on that job was way better than it was 2 months before that, now that they were all under control and knew that they were going to make their plan. It was different, you know. I think we will continue to see those. I think we'll continue to see improved safety. We'll see other things. I think we'll see people wanting to come and work for us, I believe, as we continue to grow with it. So yes, that's a great question.
Any other question? Okay. I think this might be our last or one of the last questions because we need to move to the next session.
Yeah, great presentations. Thank you for the sharing. So, do you have any kind of strategy for, maintaining the variability? Because as you know, project has so many variabilities, right? And then, right now it's still in the early stage of the projects. And then this analysis, maybe it's still in preliminary. And then during the construction process, there's going to be so many variabilities going on. Do you have any strategy to, absorb that variability, or do you put any buffers between the process, or do you have any strategy? That's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I get, again, we're fairly early in the process of doing it. So I would say, yeah, I guess we are, right? I mean, we're building buffers into what we're doing, and we're making sure that we feel comfortable with it. I mean, one of the big things will be whether we can get the carpenters that the resources, the people are going to be, if we can't, that may be a challenge. I think the deliveries, all that kind of stuff are all under control. So, yeah.
If I can add something quickly, John, if you don't mind. So there are 3 types of buffers, right? Time, capacity, and inventory. So you have 3 options. Good news is you have 3, bad news is you have 3. Right? And so if you have a team or a company or, a group of people, individuals that are trying to go faster, right? Because of competitive advantage, using too much of a time buffer is like the Formula 1 team trying to add a minute, right? Because there's a car coming to the pit stop. They will never do that, right? It goes against the optimization objective that they have, right? And so the more time buffers we add, right? Don't complain yourself later that your schedule is taking longer because you added a lot of meat on that thing, right? And so the first step and the easy one is how can we take that out, right? Think about Formula 1.
So the only other thing I'll add is you guys will remember that part of what we looked at was winter weather. And so we actually modeled 2 different scenarios, one with an optimistic view of how much work we can get done in the winter and one with a more pessimistic view. And again, all we've talked about here is the production system optimization. We haven't talked about production system control and how to make sure that you're keeping it under control. Because when obviously, no plan withstands first contact with the enemy, right? So the world will intervene. And we have to understand what the impacts of the world are on our plan, and the production control system should give us then the ability to see the potential impact of that variability and to make the necessary adjustments, even to rerun scenarios so that we can then decide how to reinvest in order to stay under control. So that's a very different, I mean, for me, that's one of the big learnings. Roberto wrote a great paper on the difference between production control and project controls. And project control is really, production control is really the ability to steer. And that's really what we're getting from this system, rather than project controls, which are necessary, but they're just telling you how you did, not giving you the ability to know how you're going to do. So that's the other area that we're trying to address variability, even as we try to optimize.
Thank you so much, guys. So please join me to congratulate them. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.